Legal Services of Eastern Missouri next on City Corner. I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome to City Corner. Today I'm talking with Legal Services of Eastern Missouri about two programs specifically, the Volunteer Lawyers Program and the Community Economic Development Program. We're going to start off first, though, with the Volunteers Lawyer Program, and I'm joined by Jim Guest. He's the director. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
So over the years, we've covered a lot of Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, and you guys do amazing work, a lot of work. But just to set the foundation, just to set the stage, why don't you describe what the organization does?
Sure, and to really sort of understand the context of how the Volunteer Lawyers Program works and the Community Economic Development Program, it's really sort of, they're both programs within Legal Services of Eastern Missouri. And the mission of Legal Services is to provide free legal assistance to very low-income people throughout Eastern Missouri on civil cases. So we handle thousands of cases every year through a staff of lawyers, paralegals, social workers at Legal Services. So the way that the Volunteer Lawyers Program works is that clients still have to meet the same eligibility requirements. Their cases still have to fit within our priorities of cases we accept. But because our organization is so overwhelmed with requests for assistance beyond what our internal staff and lawyers can handle, we have been fortunate to really develop strong relationships with law firms and lawyers throughout our community who are willing to provide pro bono legal assistance. So lawyers who are willing to accept case referrals from us, represent our clients on a free pro bono basis, and really make a big difference. These are clients who otherwise we'd probably have to say, hey, we can't help you, unfortunately, and instead we're able to find a lawyer and refer them, and those lawyers are able to help the clients.
So how does it actually, sort of work in making that outreach to lawyers at firms and them being able to take the time to dedicate themselves to these cases? I mean, is it a challenge? Because, you think of the legal field and it seems just so overwhelming. Yeah. So how does that work out with their schedules generally?
Well, we are fortunate, as I said. The lawyers and law firms in our community really are committed to doing this, and for a lot of reasons, but most importantly because it's the right thing to do. And lawyers have done pro bono work forever. Before this formal sort of referral program, the Volunteer Lawyers Program, came into existence, lawyers were doing pro bono work. I think the reason they like working with a program like ours is that we are a great sort of support for them. You mentioned how valuable and scarce their time is. What we offer them is that we screen the clients for eligibility, so they know that these are clients who really could not afford a lawyer but are really facing a tough legal situation. We get documents. We sort of try to get a very comprehensive case summary together so that their time is really best spent, actually representing the clients. And so I think we are a very good partner for lawyers and law firms in that respect. So
when we talk about civil cases, is that, and again, here's the naivete here, is that family law? Is it everything from consumer law? Talk about some of the cases that lawyers work on or the volunteer lawyers work on. So
a real simple sort of way to describe civil cases is anything that's not criminal. And that sounds really simplistic, but we handle, there are plenty of civil practice areas we don't handle. We have prioritized cases that we think really go to sort of the critical issues that poor people face. So family law is one of our biggest units. In fact, we get so many calls for family law assistance that we have basically prioritized domestic violence cases. So just about every single one of our family law cases has an element of domestic violence in it. And so we help survivors of domestic violence obtain orders of protection, get child support, custody, issues that are really critical for them being able to survive and ultimately thrive beyond this domestic violence they're facing. We do a lot of housing cases. I mean, for people living in poverty, getting and keeping stable housing is critical. And so when they're threatened with evictions or things like that, we pair them with a lawyer and staff to really try to help them sort of navigate that and wherever possible stay in their house.
Are the lawyers in the volunteer program, do they continue with their specialty as it relates to you, or do you find some of them saying, I work maybe in this area, but I really have a passion to stop domestic abuse and violence. I want to work on this case. Do you have to match your specialty?
No.
Or?
One of the things we offer is a training. So a very common situation is a law firm will say, hey, we want to be able to provide help, but no one here really does orders of protection, or no one here does landlord-tenant eviction suits. So we will go in there with one of our staff attorneys and do an hour or a 2-hour training session that really sort of focuses on sort of both the substantive law that applies in these cases, but also sort of the practical nature of, here's what happens in St. Louis City courts, or here's what happens in St. Louis County. And I think those training sessions really equip lawyers to handle cases that aren't necessarily part of their daily legal work. So,
do you have? I'm sure there's, over the history of your time being with Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, a lot of case studies you could give or examples.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anyone that stands out in your mind about a lawyer who worked on a particular case that's a great example of this program and its rewards?
Sure. I mean, we had a case a few months ago where we were representing a woman who had been badly beaten by her boyfriend. I mean, it was very serious domestic violence. When I saw her, she had like a big gash across her forehead. This person had ripped some of her hair out. She had filed for an order of protection to make sure this guy couldn't be around her. And we agreed to help her when we referred her case to a volunteer lawyer at one of our partner law firms. And I wasn't representing this client, but the volunteer lawyer was. But I went to court that day, and when we got there, this woman was terrified. The guy was there. He was a huge person, very muscular. I mean, he was very intimidating. And she was a pretty petite woman who had obviously been through this serious abuse. She was ready to leave court. I mean, she was terrified. He was very intimidating. If you've not been in the courtroom, I mean, the judge is sort of up on the bench, and the parties are at these tables. He was not even looking at the judge or anyone else. He was just glaring at her, trying to intimidate her. This volunteer lawyer was amazing. She came in and was very comforting, sat down with the woman, said, I know this is going to be tough, but we're going to get this story out there, and we're going to help you get the protection you need. She walked her through sort of the testimony about here's what we're going to talk about, and I want you to tell the truth, and I want you to explain what happened. This lawyer was able to get the order of protection for this woman, was able to get medical expenses paid for. And I bring that story up because I think it really highlights the value of the Volunteer Lawyers Program. I think clearly, without a lawyer being there, this outcome would not have happened. This woman was ready to leave. She was terrified. Instead, this volunteer lawyer was able to step in and make that difference. And you talked about how valuable the lawyer's time is. That lawyer spent under 10 hours of her time on that case, but still made a really significant difference in the life of that client.
No, that's a great story. And do you find in that case, like with that lawyer, and again, that 10 hours of time, you're looking for lawyers to dedicate their time from anywhere of that 10 hours to more, or you're just looking for lawyers to volunteer their services and time?
Exactly. And, we never hide the ball. When we contact a lawyer, we tell them exactly what's going on with the case. We don't want them to think they're having a 10-hour case and then get into it and it's going to be, a huge time drain. So we're very open and communicative with our volunteer lawyers about, really what the case involves. And we have a great relationship with most of our volunteer lawyers. We want to be their partner, as I mentioned earlier. I mean, we recruit people, but we also really are informative about what's going on with these cases.
And do you have volunteer lawyers that stay on like year after year after year, some who have been dedicating their time, I guess, for years probably at this point.
So I mentioned we have law firms who we've been connected to for 20 years, and they are always great partners, but specific lawyers, I mean, you know, when I started this job and I would go out and try to recruit lawyers, I would start really hammering on this ethical duty that lawyers have, or this civic duty we have, or a moral duty. And, you know, I began to realize that it sounded so negative and obligatory and something like this burden we all have to bear. And if you talk to volunteer lawyers who do much of this, I think they will tell you the opposite. It's some of their most rewarding work, stuff they really enjoy, stuff that is very manageable. It does not sort of compromise their other work, their personal lives. And so I don't feel like I have to be like a used car salesman. I mean, people really love doing this. And
what is probably something that surprised you most over the years about the feedback? Is it something like this was actually fun, or this was something? What's probably surprised you most in terms of people's enthusiasm in signing up to do it?
I guess I wouldn't say it was surprising, but it's really great when I go out to talk to lawyers or bar associations. I mean, it's one thing for me to say, hey, this is something you should do and explain how the program works. What's great, though, is when we have a lawyer who is a volunteer lawyer who will get up and sort of give a firsthand account of, you know, I take these cases. They're very manageable, and they make you feel really good about what you're doing, and you make a difference in the lives of these clients. And that happens all the time. I mean, if we go to a law firm or speak in front of a group, I mean, I have no problem finding someone willing to do that.
No, that's great. And are you currently looking for lawyers? Part of what we want to get the message out through the show. Are you currently looking?
Yeah, we are always looking for lawyers. We have probably 500 lawyers who I would call active volunteers, people who have accepted cases in the past few years. But, you know, anytime we try to place a case and can't, I mean, that's a loss for us. And so we're always looking for lawyers, and we're willing to come out and talk to them. As I said, we're willing to do training. We want people to know that we're very supportive as they do this work.
Okay, all right. Well, we've got the information there for you on our screen, and we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about another program that Legal Services of Eastern Missouri does. It's the Community Economic Development Program. So please stay with us.
Experience St. Louis.
This financial advisor is being accused of committing one of the largest investment frauds in the history of the United States.
I guess we're not going to Aspen. That's fine. You see, I like tennis balls. He likes insider trading. So he's going to jail and I'm going to a shelter. And no, they're not the same thing. Shelters are for good pets that want to be adopted. Jails are for criminals. I've done nothing. Uh-oh. Ooh, okay, I stole a cheeseburger once. I'm my dog.
For those dealing with the struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for advice and support.
Over 13 million people are affected by famine, war, and drought in the Horn of Africa.
Make a simple text donation of $10.
But do more than donate. Forward the facts.
I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. Today I'm talking with the Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, and in the first half of the program, we were talking about the Volunteer Lawyers Program. Now we're going to talk about the Community Economic Development Program. I'm joined by Laurie Hauber, I got it right, Laurie Hauber, who is a staff attorney as well as the program director and program manager for this. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you guys do Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, a lot of different programs. Again, we started off talking about laying the foundation of everything that the organization does. But this is really unique because you're helping business owners and helping people who are self-employed or starting their new business. So tell me a bit more about it, just to make sure we got it all covered.
Sure. So it's called the Community Economic Development Program. And like you just said, we provide legal assistance and offer educational classes to both entrepreneurs, and that includes entrepreneurs who are starting businesses or who may have an existing business and are trying to grow it. And then we also help nonprofits that are engaged in community development activities and nonprofits that provide social services to people who are low income. So that's kind of the nutshell.
So what are some of the instances when business owners are coming to you or about to start a business? What kind of legal services do they actually need?
Great question. So, for example, an entrepreneur who wants to start a business and is kind of has their business plan and they're getting closer to actually opening their doors, so to speak, they often need help forming a legal entity. So they're no longer operating as what's called a sole proprietor, where their personal assets are at stake. So we help them form a legal entity. We draft the documents that are required in connection with that. Even if people are only hiring 1 or 2 people, we'll help with the employment documents, the employment agreements that a business needs to really have a strong foundation and to hopefully help manage their employees effectively. A lot of times, businesses may not have a need to hire employees, but on project basis, they need to hire independent contractors. And so we'll help draft that kind of form agreement. And we do a lot of other form type contracts that we draft for clients, or we review a lot of contracts. And we review a lot of commercial leases, and we help clients understand what are the real costs of this lease, because often it's more than just monthly rent.
Sure.
And so,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
And then intellectual property. So we help with, a lot of businesses, especially kind of in today's world with social media, a lot of businesses there's value to a trademark, whether that's a name or a logo they have, or even special materials they've created that warrant a copyright protection. And so it's helping businesses most effectively protect intellectual property they have in their business.
Well, I think what I think is so interesting about this is because so many people who are entrepreneurs or starting businesses, there's so many things that you don't know, and then you think, to go to that reference to a law firm, how much money you have to spend to go to a firm. It can be really expensive just to have that consultation. And so you guys, are you working with a specific group type of business? The fact that this is all under Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, are you working with a specific type of business owner or small business owner? Is there any sort of select criteria around using the services?
Well, and that is, one of the goals of the program, and kind of one of the reasons it precipitated its formation in the first place, is to help people who are low income, who are starting a business, and they don't have access to the same kind of funding and networks of support. And so this is to help people who don't have the money to go, like you said, sit down with a lawyer and make sure that kind of their foundation is set before they actually go into business, or to help them if they've had a business but they've been kind of doing it on the side, to help them establish that foundation as they grow into a larger business. And so from in terms of criteria, this is designed to help people who don't have as much income. And so we do have guidelines, and that's something that I'm not the specialist, but we have people who are intake specialists at Legal Services who day in and day out, that's what they do on the phone. They assess people's eligibility from an income standpoint.
Okay.
And then, well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, we actually have a photo of one of your clients that I thought would be good to talk about. We can show that on the screen. And they have an interesting story. They started they've created their own barbecue sauce, and they're a client that came two legal services of Eastern Missouri using this program, the CED program, and tell me a bit about them, and we've got a photo of them as well.
Okay. So they're actually one of the very first clients of the Community Economic Development Program, and they came to us, so we work with a network of what I describe as business support organizations, and these are organizations that provide business counseling, help with business plan development, and some of them provide microloans. And so these are the organizations that typically then refer clients to us. And so this client, who you just referenced, who has a barbecue sauce, they got connected with St. Patrick's Center, which St. Patrick's Center has a business incubator called Begin New Ventures. And part of that is a state-of-the-art commercial kitchen. And so they started because they held barbecues in their backyard. And they got a lot of encouragement from family and friends saying, you really should consider selling this, it's so good. And that led to them going to Soulard and selling their sauce, but they didn't have the proper permits and licenses they needed, so they were told, come back when you have that, but they pretty much had to shut down. That's what, somehow from that, they got connected to St. Patrick's Center. And so St. Patrick's Center really helped them take their sauce, and then now they had a place to make it. They had a commercial kitchen, and then they were able to connect with a bottling company, and so, they were able to go from making sauce on a small pot on a stove to a factory making their sauce and selling it, and they're now on the shelves of Chinook's and some other stores, and they're expanding even from there in terms of their product line.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. What about, can you give some other examples of other clients that maybe aren't in the food industry but have used the services?
Oh, sure.
Well?
I mean, it really runs the gamut. We have an architectural firm, landscaping, and various businesses in some kind of construction trade, cookie delivery business. I'm just trying to think, if I said web design, pardon me.
No,
and consulting business, health and wellness. I mean, it really kind of every kind of small business you can think of, we have come to us.
And how do you feel most people actually hear about this program? Because again, it seems like the need for this is so high, because I feel like people have businesses on their side, trade shows, people are always representing something, whether it's something they make or they're getting into design something they're self-employed by, if they're self-employed. But it seems like the need for legal services in this area is so high. So how do people generally hear about this program?
Mm-hmm. So on the entrepreneur side, it goes back to the business support organizations I refer to, and it's generally those organizations are already providing services to a client, and so then they'll say, you really need to go talk to a lawyer about, the legal aspects of your business, or you need to have a lawyer review your commercial lease. So that's how entrepreneurs often get to us. It's also word of mouth. Mm-hmm. So entrepreneurs have friends, and we've helped, and then they refer their friends. On the nonprofit side, it's less straightforward, because there aren't those kind of business support organizations for nonprofits. So a lot of our nonprofits come from an assortment of word of mouth ways, but then also foundations sometimes will refer their grantees to us. And also we've done some educational programming for grantees of some of a few foundations in town. And so then, we worked with about 30 or 40 of their grantees.
Got it. And how does this overlap? We were talking again in the first half with Jim about the volunteer lawyers program. How does this overlap with that? Or does it?
Well, it does, in that, the volunteer lawyers program is really how the Community Economic Development Program was able to get off the ground, because we have, we've only been in existence just over 2 years, yet we have over 200 clients, and then another 250 or so that have contacted us seeking our assistance. So the demand confirms the need for this. But given that high demand, and I'm the only staff attorney who works on the program, I wouldn't be able to meet the legal needs of all of those clients. And so fortunately, just like with VLP, this program draws upon, we've had over 100 attorneys who have done cases for the CED program to date. And so it's because of the relationships that VLP has, that then it's really just expanding those relationships to include more transactional attorneys who maybe hadn't done pro bono before this program.
And I would see the need for this to continue to grow. So I mean, is the idea to bring on more volunteer lawyers, or to get more funding, or so you won't be the only staff attorney to increase?
The answer to that question is both. I mean, because we do see the demand is increasing over time, and as we do more outreach and kind of establish ourselves in different neighborhoods, yes, more and more people call us seeking our services. So we're always kind of looking, but we always welcome more attorneys joining kind of the ranks of our volunteers.
And how do you feel, and I could have probably posed the same question to Jim when, from the side of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, where you have the skills, where you could be at a big firm and doing this and that, but you're really helping people in the community on a grassroots level, doing amazing things with their life. And so how does that feel to you as a lawyer, and how does the other lawyers that work in this program, what's some of the feedback that they say about what it's like to work with small businesses or individuals starting their business?
I think similar to kind of what Jim was saying with VLP, the attorneys find it gratifying to get to help someone who they know otherwise could really flounder, and it's really great kind of counseling opportunities, especially for more junior associates who maybe are part of a team with a larger client, but with our clients for these pro bono projects, they really get to run the show, and it's their client. And so, I think that can be very rewarding.
Yeah.
For me, it's I guess what energizes me, or I wouldn't do it, because I started at a big law firm.
Did you?
And just knew that wasn't the best fit for me.
And here you are, and making an impact. So where do people go for more information? Just to Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, to the website? If they're interested, if they have a small business and they want to learn more
so
about it.
So websites, the main number, which I think was on the screen.
Yeah, we have that. Yeah, no, we've got that. I just go to, there it is for you right there. It's LSEM.org, and call. And if you are watching this, or you know someone who is self-employed or a small business owner, and they're looking for any kind of legal consultation, call, see if you actually would meet the eligibility requirements, and you can check it out.
Or a nonprofit.
Or as a nonprofit. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being here.
Oh, well, thank you.
All right, and thank you at home for watching City Corner, and please keep it right here on STL TV Experience St. Louis.